This is the Louie Tee Network.
Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie Tee. Welcome to Lockdown Coverage, week number 10 in the National Football League. Man, there were a number of finishes that had a lot of people talking about week 10 in the National Football League that were wacky. The finish in Pittsburgh with the Cowboys and the Steelers, the finish in Carolina with the Chiefs and the Panthers. But I don't know if any finish was as thrilling and different as the one in New Orleans between the Denver Broncos and the New Orleans Saints. We will jump into this football game, talk about the ramifications of the outcome and how we got to that point here in a second. But first, if you're new to the Louie Tee Network, welcome to the Louie Tee Network and subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2016 and beyond. We're changing the game over here. I want you to be a part of the movement by simply hitting that red subscription button and becoming a part of the Louie Tee Network. We're looking to change the game over here. I want you to help us do that. Go ahead and subscribe to the Louie Tee Network. Also, I'm on Twitter at InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. Most effective and efficient way to keep tabs on this channel is by following me on Twitter and turning on your notifications. You could do the same thing on YouTube, but I think in real time, if you're looking for the most rapid response, Twitter is going to be your answer there. And if you want to chop it up and talk football with me, that's the best way to do so as well. So there are a number of ways to get in contact with me, but I think Twitter would be your most effective way to do so. So again, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at InTheLabRoom. And if you happen to be watching this video as I am doing it live and you're on Twitter and you want to have your voice heard at the end of this program, simply use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read at the end of this breakdown. Same for anyone watching this on YouTube in the YouTube chat discussion box. Make sure you use the hashtag LouieTLive if you want your comment read on the air. Also, I'm on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Go ahead and give me that thumbs up. I'm going to do some new things there a little bit later on in the season. Going to try some things and do some exclusive content on Facebook. So go ahead, get ahead of the curve before I start doing those things and like the page so you can be in the know when those things start to go down. So again, like the Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and as always and most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Louie Tee Network. All right, with all of those particulars out of the way, man, what a ball game this turned out to be. And we knew what this was going into the game. Explosive, dynamic offense versus one of the best defenses in the league. And so we knew we were going to have those contrasting styles going head to head. And that's exactly what we got. You know, a little bit of give and take from each side. But when it was all said and done, both teams got what we thought we were going to get from one another. Breeze making some plays down the stretch, even though he struggled in this game at times. That Denver defense forcing 4 turnovers of the New Orleans Saints in this game. And the biggest play in the game coming from the special teams, believe it or not, of the Denver Broncos, as that ended up being the deciding points in this football game. We'll talk about that. Let's jump into likes, dislikes, banana in the tailpipe from this football game. And we start with the likes in the first half of the road team, that being the Denver Broncos. Opening drive for the Denver Broncos. They force a punt of the Saints. They get their hands on the football, and they march the football down the field in 13 plays, 85 yards. They get in the end zone. Jordan Taylor with the touchdown. He's starting to become a more prominent piece of this offense. He's getting more and more snaps, becoming more and more of a target for Trevor Siemian. And that was a really good catch. Initially ruled out of bounds. Then they take a look at it, and they see that he gets both feet in. Really good throw by Siemian, tight roping it on the sidelines, and Jordan Taylor able to get his feet down for his first career NFL score. That's an impressive opening drive on the road against a Saints team that's been playing a lot better defense, and I thought they did that in this game as well. So to get on the scoreboard first on the road after that bitter defeat a week ago against the Oakland Raiders, you needed to get off to a fast start, and that was exactly what the doctor ordered, and that's what that was with that 13-play, 85-yard drive, capping it with a touchdown. Darian Stewart gets the first of his 2 first-half interceptions. He was Johnny on the spot all game long. 2 interceptions, also had a fumble recovery. He definitely deserves a game ball. Wherever the football was, Darian Stewart wasn't that far behind. And this first pick was huge because it took points off the scoreboard. Drew Brees looking to get the football down inside the 5-yard line. Tavares Cadet coming out of the backfield has a matchup. He's winning that matchup. He's going to catch that football if Darian Stewart doesn't come over from his safety position and pick it off. Great play by Stewart to be, again, in the right place at the right time. Huge play, taking points off the scoreboard. The Broncos would do nothing with that football, but it doesn't matter. The fact that you took points off the scoreboard and then forced them to do it all over again by punting it and making them go the length of the field again, that's huge. Darian Stewart making a play. And then we go to his second pick in the game. It was more of Bradley Roby making a play on the football. Brees trying to fit it into a tight window to Michael Thomas, who has been lighting it up of late. One of the best rookie wide receiver out of the past 2016 NFL draft class. And he was trying to fit it in there. Bradley Roby all over him, knocks the football away. It caroms into the air, into the waiting arms of guess who? You guessed it, Darian Stewart, who picks it off into Saints territory. And they do get points out of that turnover. So again, that's a big turnover there. You get a McManus field goal that gives you a 10-0 lead. Again, good start to the game for the Denver Broncos after having that sour taste in your mouth, being really dominated by the Oakland Raiders on Sunday Night Football. You go to the first half likes for the New Orleans Saints in this game, and Sterling Moore getting his hands on the football. Great interception right before the half. Saints really don't have much to speak of in terms of any big plays. It's 10-0. The offense really hasn't gotten going. A couple of turnovers by Brees. You need something to give you a little bit of a spark. And that Sterling Moore interception was exactly that. It took the football, and much like the Darian Stewart first interception by the Denver Broncos, this took points off the board for the Broncos. They were in field goal range. They were going to get something, maybe even a touchdown. Who knows what happens on that possession if it continues. But Sterling Moore baits quarterback Trevor Siemian into a throw, comes off of a receiver, picks it off. Big play for the Saints. They actually go down the field and go get a field goal right before the half. You know how I feel about points before the half. Speaking of which, that is my other like of the first half, or one of my other likes of the first half, is that field goal to end the first half. Anytime you can get points to end the half, it's a momentum and a big boost to your football team. It's a momentum swing, and they needed that. Did the Saints, because again, 10-0. You got a ton of turnovers, nothing to show for. Your defense actually playing well in this game, and that field goal to me gave them a little bit of spark, and it started what ended up ultimately being a 17-0 run by the Saints, 17 unanswered points in this game to take a lead in the second half, and it started with that field goal, and that field goal was the basis, and it all started with the Sterling Moore interception. And finally, my final like of the first half is the pressure. I thought that the Saints defense put pressure on Trevor Siemian. He wasn't comfortable, and despite the turnovers, despite the Broncos having the football, having some good opportunities to score, I thought that Saints defense put pressure on Trevor Siemian, made him uncomfortable. And I've been talking about this over the last 3 weeks or so about the impact that Paul Kruger has had on this defense. He's been really good, and I think he's been a calming influence on this defense. Now you start to get some of your players back. Delvin Breaux back out in the secondary. I think he came back a couple games ago. Now you get back Sheldon Rankins. I think he's been back for a couple games now. Now you're starting to get healthier. You're seeing guys have impacts on this football team. And now all of a sudden it's all starting to fall in place for you if you're the Saints. Defensively, they're starting to get better. You start to see guys making some plays. Nick Fairley getting pressure and getting a sack. We already know what you have out there in Jordan Cameron. He got a sack in this game as well. Paul Kruger was collapsed in the pocket. Like I said, Donnell L.A.B with a sack in this game. Guys are starting to come together, and once you get healthy, and that's what the Saints are doing, this defense starting to play much better. And I thought the pressure in the first half kept the Saints in this ball game. If not for that pressure, I think this is a different game going into the halftime break, and way worse than just 10-3. You go to the dislikes in the first half and go back to the Broncos. Trevor Siemian's interception before the half, I thought it changed the tenor of the game. If they get a field goal there, they're up 13-0. They're pitching a shutout, and they're blanking the Saints, and they're doing it in a dominant fashion with the turnovers, no points. And this is a highly combustible Saints offense, and they got nothing to show for it in the first half. Instead, you throw the interception, they go and get a field goal, and what comes after that is 14 points, a little barrage. And we know that this offense can do that, and it all started with that interception. If you get a touchdown there on that possession and go up 17-0, this game is probably over at that point. Instead, that interception, I thought, changed the complexity of the football game. And then giving up the field goal after the interception, you still could have went out and stopped the Saints from getting something. But you know how that goes. Once momentum flips, that's the home team. The crowd gets involved, and Drew Brees took his team right down the field. They're lucky they didn't give up a touchdown there. Instead, they only give up a field goal. It's 10-3 at the half. The dislikes for the Saints in the first half. Drew Brees with his first interception, talked about that already. Darian Stewart really reading the eyes of Drew Brees, who took him straight to the football, trying to win a one-on-one matchup with Tavares Cadet on a linebacker, and he was winning that matchup, but Darian Stewart came over and erased that matchup and got the interception, taking some points and a potential scoring opportunity off the scoreboard. And then the second interception, just a great play by Bradley Roby to break it up. Brees trying to fit the football into a tight window. The first interception doesn't hurt you on the scoreboard because the Broncos eventually go 3 and out and have to punt. But the second interception does hurt you. That turns into a field goal and gives the Broncos a 10-0 lead. And Darian Stewart, again, Johnny on the spot, picks that one off. So, again, 2 interceptions in the first half for Drew Brees. You go to the second half likes in this ball game. We go back to the Denver Broncos, and it's Bradley Roby forcing a fumble. He was very active in this game, was Bradley Roby. Remember, no Aqib Talib. Somebody's got to step up in that secondary. That guy's going to be Bradley Roby, who's going to see a much more bigger role when no Talib is available. And so he stepped up in that role. He relished that opportunity this game, and he made some plays. I talked about the deflection that turned into an interception. How about this fumble? Gets beat by Michael Thomas on that same slant that he broke up earlier. Thomas is able to catch the football, get up the field. Roby reaches from behind. Bolo punches the football out. Again, who do you think recovers the fumble? You guessed it. That's right, Darian Stewart with the recovery. And that was a huge play in the game that ends up turning into a DT, Demaryius Thomas, double eight touchdown. And at that time, that was a huge play in the game because Saints had scored 17 unanswered. They had the football. They were on the move. If that play goes and it's just a tackle and not a fumble, you're talking about almost getting out to midfield. And now all of a sudden, that offense is back on the move again. Don't know if the Denver Broncos are able to put the brakes on them. They were moving the football. They were scoring points. And most importantly, they were getting in the end zone, 2 straight touchdowns. So they were starting to feel comfortable against this Denver Broncos defense. And then that turnover happens. And then the whole game switched, sort of like that interception by Sterling Moore that switched the game in the first half to end the first half. This turnover, I thought, was the turning point for the Broncos because they were struggling offensively. They couldn't get any rhythm. And this fumble gave them great field position. They take it, they deposit it into the end zone on a Demaryius Thomas touchdown. And just like that, we're knotted up at 17 in this ball game. Jarrett Crick with a forced fumble of Michael Thomas, his second fumble of the game. This one, this was a serious hit here. He didn't see Jarrett Crick coming. Good hustle by a defensive lineman. Crushes Michael Thomas. He got up woozy. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out later on in the week he's in the concussion protocol because he got smashed on this play. Ball comes out, and it's recovered by Bradley Roby TJ Ward. That turns into a field goal then. And so the lead that the Broncos had built at 20-17 grows into 23-17 lead. So now they're up 6, and now only a touchdown can beat the Broncos. Field goal will be of no use to the Saints after that fumble. And then, obviously, the biggest play of the game, the Justin Simmons blocked extra point, hops over the center, the long snapper, blocks the kick, and it's a rookie-to-rookie connection. Love Justin Simmons out of Boston College. I've been waiting for him to make some kind of splash play, and here he is making a huge play at the most crucial time of a game. Broncos really needed this game, and this was a huge play. Blocks the kick. Will Parks, fellow rookie in the secondary out of Arizona, scoops it up. Controversial situation. Does he step out of bounds? Does he stay in bounds? Kind of hard to tell from the best angle that they could show us. He might have stepped out. The Saints had a great angle and a great look. Of course, they're going to contend that he stepped out. Obviously, the officials didn't have a good enough look. At every angle that I saw, it seemed like he stayed in bounds. But again, at the end of the day, it's a return for a touchdown. You can't have that kind of breakdown. But great play by Justin Simmons to time it perfectly and to get back there, block the kick, and Will Parks to run it in for 2 points. We've never seen a game end like that. I mean, we've seen block kicks go for touchdowns, but to have an extra point returned for 2 points and that be the deciding factor in the game, those 2 points be the margin of victory, I don't think we've ever seen that since they changed the rules over to make these extra points from 15 yards out and 33 yards total, and extra points being able to be run back, and 2-point conversions be able to run back for 2 points for the opposition. I don't think we've seen a game end quite like this. What a dramatic win by the Denver Broncos. Huge play by 2 rookies to help them secure a victory on the road. You go to the New Orleans Saints in their second half likes. Opening drive of the second half. I talked about getting the field goal to end the first half. Your defense goes out, gets a stop to start the second half, and then you turn around and you get the football and you drive it down the field. 7 plays, 90 yards into the end zone to Willie Snead, who gets the scoring going in the second half. That would help that 17 unanswered point run that the Saints would go on, and they would take a 17-10 lead well into the fourth quarter before the fumble by Michael Thomas and the subsequent Broncos touchdown to tie the game up at 17. Kenny Vaccaro making an interception. Here's another opportunity for a play to be made by a Saints player that is made. And Kenny Vaccaro is an interesting guy. He's either making a really big play or he's doing something that aids the other team when I see him. Very physical football player, plays with a reckless abandon that either you love or you hate. But this was one of those plays where he's in the right spot at the right time, makes a play on the football, but later on in the game made a boneheaded decision that I believe cost his team some field position, definitely, if not points. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But you got also the Brandon Cooks touchdown at the end. What a play. First of all, great throw by Drew Brees to give his guy an opportunity to go up, climb the ladder. Cook's not the biggest receiver in the league, but boy, does he play big. Goes and climbs the ladder, double coverage, doesn't care, comes down with the football. I love Brandon Cooks, love his tenacity, love his competitiveness. He went up, got that football, came down with it. It seemed like it was going to be the go-ahead score. All they needed to do was tack on the extra point. Instead, it's blocked, and we all know the rest was sealed as history. But big play by Brandon Cooks in any event. He had a huge game, 3 catches, 95 yards, and that touchdown that tied the game up at 23. Let's go to the dislikes for both teams. Trevor Siemian throws his second interception of the game. He threw one in the first half that was picked off, and then he throws the second one, this time to Kenny Vaccaro. Just not a good decision on his part. I don't really know what he was looking to accomplish there. Good interception by Kenny Vaccaro. And then Brandon McManus misses a 42-yard field goal. It's just one of those situations where he's been a pretty good kicker for you, but you need him to hit that, especially in a controlled environment like the Superdome. There's no wind. There's no factors outside of just concentrating and knocking it home, and he didn't do so on a 42-yarder. You expect Brandon McManus to knock that home, especially in a game that you win by 2 points. Those 3 points could have been costly had you lost this ball game. Got to have every single opportunity, especially in a controlled environment like this, need those field goals to be knocked home. You go to the dislikes for the New Orleans Saints in the second half. Michael Thomas with this first fumble. Game was 17-10, Saints up by a score. They had all the momentum in the world. That fumble happens. It changed the tenor of this game. Like I said earlier, they end up scoring off of that fumble. Demaryius Thomas getting in the end zone, tying it up, and the Broncos would then go score 6 more points after that. So you're talking about what amounts to a 13-point swing started with this fumble by Michael Thomas. He would then fumble again as another dislike later in the game. This one, I have a little bit more sympathy for him. Again, he never saw Jarrett Crick coming from the defensive line, hustling, and he crushed him helmet to helmet. He got up woozy, had no idea what the hell had just happened, and the football came out, recovered by Bradley Roby, leads to another field goal to give the Broncos a 23-17 lead. And then having your point extra, a point after touchdown block, that PAT block, I mean, that is just a heartbreaking way to lose. That's some cold-blooded stuff right there, to have it blocked, scooped, and scored, and that turns out to be the deciding factor in the game. You kick an onside kick, you don't get it, and they take knees, where just literally 30 seconds ago, you were in the position of kicking an extra point and going up 1. You end up losing the game by 2 because of a blocked extra point. Again, tough, bitter pill to swallow. This Saints team has fought, scratched, and clawed to get all the way back to 500 at 4-4 in the season, and they've literally got 5-4 right in the palm of their hands, right in their clutches, and it is snatched from them on a blocked extra point and a return for 2 points. That is a harsh, harsh way to lose, but that is the National Football League. It's a game of inches, and Justin Simmons makes the play of the game to help the Denver Broncos steal a victory from the New Orleans Saints. Let's get to your comments in this game. Let's see what you guys have to say. All right. Let's see. Craig Smith says, sorry about the HTC, Lou. Stupid autocorrect. It's all good, man. Yeah, I'll read your comment because you said, I hate HTCs, by the way. I'm sorry. I just had to say that. But I'll read your comment because HTC got you good, man. It put Louis 12 up there. I'm sorry. I'm going to apologize for the HTC. I'm a Chargers fan from and living in New Orleans. Can't stand the Saints, but I got to say they were royally screwed, Lou. Okay, so maybe you guys saw a better angle than I did. Like I said, I didn't see him step out of bounds, but I'm hearing a lot of people say that they were screwed. So this isn't the first time. I thought the Saints were screwed in the first game of the season against the Oakland Raiders. They called Craig Robertson for a pass interference when I didn't think it was. The ball wasn't catchable. It was thrown out of bounds. I thought that was a questionable call on the 4th down. If they don't call that, they beat the Oakland Raiders in week 1. So they've had some really tough decisions go against them at home this season, and it's cost them 2 games. Let's see what else you guys have to say. Andre Mogul says, good decisions in the offseason for my D, for the Falcons and the Aints in the NFC South will be back to how it was. This division is not as bad as people think. Saints are right there, and I thought the Saints would be a really formidable team this year. I thought they were going to win anywhere from 7 to 9 games this year, and they're on pace to do exactly that. They're a dangerous team because Drew Brees is at the helm, and anytime you got a quarterback like that, like I always say with the Chargers and Drew Brees, or Phillip Rivers, anytime you got a quarterback like that, even the Green Bay Packers who are struggling, you got Aaron Rodgers. Anytime you got one of these types of quarterbacks, you got a chance in this league. 21 of 29 for over 300 yards. Yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, but still made the play at the end to give his team a chance to win. And pending an extra point, they might have been able to get it done. But a couple of offseason decisions, like he said, and maybe this division might be back to where it was as one of the better divisions in all of football. We'll see. Let's see. Also, Andre Mogul says, crazy game. After watching the highlights, turnovers killed the Saints. Didn't watch much of this game, but I'm still on the edge of that final play. What do you say? Was he in or out? Like I said, I didn't see anything definitive to overturn that call. The call on the field was a touchdown. Had they called him out of bounds, then it would have stayed that way because you wouldn't have had irrefutable evidence to spin it the other way. I just didn't see an angle that showed me definitively that he was out of bounds. It looked like he was very close, and the Saints are all pointing at, but what are the Saints supposed to do? They're standing there, but they don't want this guy to score a 2-point conversion and take those 2 points. So, of course, they're going to say he was out of bounds. I just didn't see anything. He looked close, but he's got on white shoes. Out of bounds is white. It's just really hard to tell. So, you keep it the way it was on the field, and I think that's what they decided to do. Saints were killed by turnovers. That is absolutely a fact. You turn it over 4 times in a game, you're going to lose most times in this league. And they turned it over 4 times, and they had to pay for those turnovers in this game. Bossaholic says, I honestly don't know what the F the Saints are going to do in the offseason. They are still on Breeze, even though he's close to 40. And they aren't tanking, so they won't get a good quarterback in the draft. I don't know what they're going to do, but Drew Brees is still playing at a high level, much like Tom Brady. He's not going anywhere until you actually see a tremendous drop-off. Tom Brady is going to play until somebody pushes him out of the door and says, you're not good enough. Same with Drew Brees. He's not going anywhere until he can't. They love this. They love this ish. As your fellow New Orleans August Alsina says, man, they love this ish. They're not going anywhere. Drew Brees isn't going anywhere. So he's going to play this game until he's 44 if he can. And so we'll see what happens. Boss Holic says they don't have any plans for a post-Breeze, so I guess they can keep contending for 7-9 until they're 4-12. That's essentially what's going to happen. Unless Garrett Grayson is any good, that's exactly what's going to happen. Or Luke McCown can get you by until you can find the replacement. Yeah, but look around the league. Look at the rest of these teams who have these quarterbacks. The Steelers haven't drafted anybody to take Ben Roethlisberger's spot. The Chargers haven't drafted anyone to take Phillip Rivers' spot. The Cardinals are in a S-storm once Carson Palmer realizes that I'm done. And I think that's going to come after this season. They haven't drafted anyone to take his spot. I mean, you look around the league, the Patriots, they keep drafting quarterbacks, but I don't believe in any of those guys yet. But at least they have a guy that they think could be the guy in Jacoby Brissett. And if they give him some time behind Brady for the next 3 years, maybe he'll be ready when Brady's 42 or 43 or whatever he'll be. And it's time for them to pass that mantle over. We'll see, but that's how these teams do. When you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback on your football team, you're not planning for the future. You're trying to win now. So you're trying to build around that quarterback. You're not looking to spend a high draft pick on a quarterback when you've already got a guy that can win you the whole thing right now. So, yeah, it's going to be a while. We'll see what happens. Craig Smith says the center was held down by a D lineman while the DB jumped over him for the block. There was at least 2 gasps by the refs on that play. See, I didn't see all of that, but I believe it. I mean, that's a smart play by the D lineman. If you can hold down that center so he can't get his hand up and try to get a piece of Justin Simmons, more power to you, and get away with it, more power to you. Guys do things like that all the time. Defensive linemen hold offensive linemen so they can't get to the second level and get to the linebackers and allow the linebackers to run into the backfield unabated and make tackles. It happens all the time. I remember teams used to complain about Justin Smith of the 49ers when they were in their heyday with the 49ers with Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis, that he would hold all the time and allow Willis and Bowman to roam free and make plays in the backfield. You'd be surprised at what guys get away with. If you know how to do it, if you're very tactical in your approach, you can get away with a lot on the football field. Bossaholic says, I don't even want to pile on the Saints, but how long until they fire Peyton? Peyton's not going anywhere either. Unless he wants to go, he's not going anywhere either. Andre Mogul says, I'm a Falcons fan, and Drew Brees is still the ish. Much respect to him. And I think that's the echoed sentiment around the league, is that Drew Brees is still playing at a tremendously high level. And until he falls off of that proverbial cliff, he's not going anywhere. And the Saints aren't going to just let him walk away either. They're going to find a way to re-sign him in the offseason. Let's check Twitter and see if there are any comments there. And no comments on Twitter. So that's going to wrap this lockdown coverage up of a dramatic finish in New Orleans as the Saints fall 25-23 on a last-second PAT blocked, returned for 2 points, which ends up being the 2 points that decides the game at 25-23. Broncos, huge win on the road against a team that had them on the ropes, and they were able to come back, overcome some mistakes that allowed the Saints to come back. They forced the issue, though. Make no mistake about it. They forced 4 turnovers in this game and found a way to win at the end with the block PAT in return for the 2 points. And so they go to 6-3 on the season. Good rebound after that big defeat at Oakland on primetime television on Sunday Night Football. Good bounce back win on the road versus a very game New Orleans Saints football team. Saints dropped to 4-5 on the season and had a golden opportunity to make up some ground as the Panthers and the Falcons both lost. Instead, they lose as well, blow an opportunity to make up some ground in the NFC South. Meanwhile, the Broncos keep pace with the Joneses in the AFC West as the Chiefs win and the Raiders were idle. So they closed the gap there in that division, staying a half game behind both division leaders. We'll talk about these two teams a lot more this season, obviously, but we've got many more games, couple more games to break down on the Sunday slate here on Lockdown Coverage. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here in the Lab Room. Come back and join me as I continue to break down anything and everything in the National Football League here on Lockdown Coverage. Remember, we're changing the game one live feed at a time. I will see you guys a little bit later on. I got Chargers and Dolphins coming down the pipeline. I'll see you a little bit later on to break that one down. That was a crazy one as well. See you then. Have a good one.